Sports Generals are on patrol. Welcome to the show today. I got Bryan with me, I got Jason, and as you can see, I'm under to the max. So let's get right to it, fellas.
All right, let's do it.
Which game from Wildcard weekend do you want to start with?
Why don't we just go in order? Why don't we start with Raiders-Bengals?
All right. So, Raiders-Bengals, I guess the biggest thing was you had that controversial play, but I don't think it made too much of an impact on the game because it was late in the second quarter. So the Raiders still had multiple opportunities to come back afterwards. But even still, I feel like Cincinnati was a little too reliant on their passing offense.
Yeah, they didn't really get the ground game going as much. Mixon only had 48 yards on 17 carries. So I agree. I would like to have seen them, get that's part of their offense rolling a bit more. But Burrow played lights out. He's playing like you said he would play. To be completely honest, Josh, you actually got this game right. I know you really, really like the Bengals a little bit more than some of us do, but I picked the Raiders, so I'll own up to it. I got this one wrong this weekend.
Yeah, me too. I dropped the ball on that one as well. I thought the Raiders, at times throughout the game, was the more physical team. They were having their way running the ball with them, with Josh Jacobs. Lights out. They played lights out, but again, it was unfortunate they came up short. The Bengals definitely had more of a higher power score in offense, but Joe Mixon couldn't really get the wheels running. But Joe Burrow, Joe Cool, like I've told some of you guys before, Joe Montana 2.0, man. He got a smoothness demeanor to him where it don't matter if they're winning or if they're losing, you can't tell by just looking at them if you cut the game on mute. So
right.
Yeah, the only thing that really concerns me about this team is that offensive line. It's not very consistent, to say the least. Burrow gets pressured a lot. He gets sacked quite a bit as well. I think part of the reason why they weren't leaning on the ground game as much is because they were a little bit overmatched there up front. So that's one area of concern is the run game for me. But Burrow's the real deal. Derek Carr had, I count at least 2 opportunities to tie the game and to win the game within the last 4 minutes of the game. And he came up short both times, and it was very reminiscent of some of the Browns games and how they ended this season with, the ball being in Baker's hands and us having an opportunity to drive down the field and win or tie. And just like Baker, he kind of fell short there. So, for a guy who threw the ball 54 times and Derek Carr, they obviously are counting on that guy to be the guy at the end of the game to make those plays and get the win. But ultimately, Burrow outdid him. So,
yeah, but here's the thing, and what we are going to talk about the divisional round later in the show. But Cincinnati did lose a couple of their defensive linemen in that game. Larry Ogunjobi, who we're all very familiar with because he's a former Cleveland Brown.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember some of the other guys. Trey Hendrickson, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a huge factor going into this weekend's game against Tennessee.
Right.
But again, we can talk about that part of it more later.
You make a good point, though. Derek Carr threw for 310 yards. Josh Jacobs ran for 83 yards on only 13 carries. So they were kind of having their way with that defense. And like you said, a couple of, starters on that team went down during the game, and that obviously made the situation even worse for them. These are the things, Josh, that had me just saying pump the brakes a little bit on the Bengals. I know you are really, heavy on them, and I'm sure you'll talk more about that as we preview the divisional round. But yeah, those are the areas of concern. I would say it's the offensive line and the run game. And then the defense, getting those guys healthy and, being able to play more consistent because, 13 carries for 83 yards, they were moving the ball quite easily on them, and then 310 yards through the air as well. So they definitely have some deficiencies there that need shored up if they are going to compete with, the likes of Tennessee, for example.
I tell you, one thing I have a concern with about the Bengals is the run defense, right? And there's this guy by the name of Derrick Henry that's going to reemerge on, I believe it's Saturday is when they play. I don't if when the Browns played them and they were averaging about a good 8 to 9 yards a chunk with Chubb, I guess it's fair to say that the same thing is going to repeat itself with Henry. This team struggles with stopping the run. They got the offense, but all you need in playoff football is a couple of stops, ball control, which is running the ball. And I can see them running down the Bengals' throat this week, man, because of that. So that is a reason concern if you're a Bengals fan.
Yeah, we'll definitely get more into the preview of that game later on in the show. We're going to make our divisional round picks. So put a pin in that, Jason. We're going to come back to that later. But yeah, I think there's definitely some things that, the Bengals definitely have to work on if they're going to compete for a title this year. But why don't we move on to the next game? Josh, you got this one right as well. That was Bills Patriots. I think I picked the Bills. Jason, did you pick the Bills or did you pick the Pats?
Yeah, I did. I picked the Bills.
Okay, so we all three of us got this one right. This one pretty much went how the three of us thought it would go, which is kind of counter to how a lot of people in the media were talking before this game. It was is Josh Allen ready to beat Bill Belichick, and there were a lot of question marks there, and a lot of people were picking New England to win this game. So it was kind of cool that all three of us were on the same page with that. And, the game kind of played out how we thought it would play out as opposed to some of the other big names in the media. So just a little pat on the back to ourselves there for doing a good job. But things we want to highlight from this game. I mean, Josh Allen, 5 touchdowns, 308 yards, no picks. He looked as good as he's looked all year.
Yeah. And it shows how much of a gap there is between him and essentially the rest of that 2018 draft class. I would say Lamar's done well, since being drafted by the Ravens. But I would say Josh Allen if Lamar's here, I would say Josh Allen's like there. He's widening that gap, and obviously Josh Allen is miles ahead of Sam Darnold. Josh Rosen isn't even in the conversation because he's basically out of the league, and we know the story with Baker Mayfield.
Right.
But and then just to add to that, if we go back a couple of episodes where we were talking about how John Dorsey made the decision, but it was basically off of job security because at the time Baker Mayfield was more ready at the time than the other two guys, Lamar Jackson as well as Josh Allen. Well, this is, again, a return on their investment because they waited out with the kid. He played in Wyoming. Wyoming they had really inferior competition, so he didn't really get a chance to, demonstrate his skills on a higher level. That was a strike against him in the combine. He had a lot of mechanics that he had to tighten up, but now if we fast forward to today, that's the best player on the field. And when they play against the Chiefs, man, it's gonna be interesting. You guys, I got a lot of interesting takes on that one. But Josh Allen has came a long way.
Yeah, he's definitely came a long way. And the other thing about this game too is they really moved the ball on the ground well too. Singletary had 2 touchdowns, 16 carries for 81 yards. Not really gaudy numbers, but good numbers. And he found pay dirt twice, which is huge. So yeah, not only were they doing it through the air. Josh Allen only had 4 incompletions. He only had to throw the ball 25 times to get his 308 yards. So really balanced attack from Buffalo. I was really shocked to see them, do so well on both sides of the ball. I expected them to dominate one or the other, but not do both. It was impressive.
So I think this game showed 2 things. One, it showed that Monday night game in Buffalo with the crazy weather and all that was an anomaly. But more importantly, number 2 is that it showed that Buffalo doesn't have to be Josh Allen reliant, because throughout the season, what I saw from Buffalo is the Josh Allen show. I didn't see them utilizing Singletary or any of their other running backs. And their running game was, Josh Allen, you go out and run the ball. So I wanted to see a more balanced attack by the Buffalo Bills, because otherwise there was no way I was going to pick them to beat Cincinnati, for example, if they happen to match up in the AFC Championship, or Kansas City. Small spoiler alert on that one, I guess. But so Buffalo definitely showed me something with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking at Buffalo a lot differently after that game than they were before. And then another big game over the weekend, 49ers and Cowboys. This is another one I happened to get wrong, lost a little bit of money on, wasn't too happy about that.
So you're just going to skip Eagles Buccaneers?
No. Oh, shoot, I did skip Eagles Buccaneers. Okay, yeah, you're right. Let's backtrack. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. We'll circle back to that later.
Nobody circles the wagon like the Buffalo Bills.
That's for sure.
Shout out to Chris Berman.
So what to say about this game? Tampa Bay dominated Philly. No big surprise here. Tom Brady did what Tom Brady does. 2 touchdowns, 271 yards, really solid numbers. But yeah, I mean, this was a game that was just, they were totally outmatched. Philly was not prepared to go up against that team at all.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay just shows you, it put on a display where, we played mediocre throughout the course of the season, but we're still back, and we're probably tougher than a lot of the teams left. We are still in Super Bowl mode, so and we still have the GOAT, so we're not fazed by up-and-coming new teams like the Eagles.
Here's another thing I want to point out real quick, Josh, and I'll let you make your point. They were up 31-0. The 15 points the Eagles scored were in garbage time after Tampa had taken out some of their star players and whatnot. So yeah, this game was nowhere near as close as it looked. 16 points isn't that close, but you get my point. It was 31-0 at the end of the third period. So
yeah. So if I had to use an emoji to describe this game, it would be this.
That one.
Yes. Because it's just what? We know Philadelphia's not that great. I mean, they play in the worst division in all of football, the NFC least. So sorry, Cowboys. Sorry, Giants. Sorry, football team. Sorry, Eagles. But you guys are the worst division in football, bar none. It isn't even close. But Tampa didn't really have to play that well because Philly just didn't really do anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't get their run game going, and that's one thing we knew that Philly was going to come out and try to do is run the ball. Jalen Hurts led the team in rushing with only 39 yards on 8 carries. So, yeah, they just could not get any offense going whatsoever against that Tampa Bay defense. And Tampa Bay's offense had their way with them, quite easily marching up and down the field until that fourth quarter where, like I said, some of the big players were taken out of the game and, some garbage time points were scored by Philly to kind of cut into that lead a little bit.
Yeah. So it was if I had to give Tampa Bay a grade for that game, I'd give them a solid B. Maybe a B minus. Actually, a B minus.
Here's the problem with this game is I don't think we learned anything from this game about Tampa Bay. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think this was a solid B performance, and that's about all they needed to win this game easy as a B performance. So
right.
Yeah.
You could even say it was a C, and because I didn't really see anything too impressive from Tampa Bay, like you just said, Bryan. So I'm just okay. You be an inferior opponent that didn't deserve to be anywhere near the playoffs.
It reminded me a lot of Bama and Cincinnati in a way, that same kind of feel, the game. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more to really be said about that game unless Jay, you had something. But
yeah, I give them a C plus. If we're using the grading curve, so grades are too about a B from all of us.
We're all about a B or a C. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the season, or towards the middle and the end of the season, Eagles, yeah, they're from the East. I get that, but they used to run down all teams' throats. They had a great running offense. I think they was like in the top 5 towards the end of the season. But Tampa Bay was able to neutralize that. And once you neutralize that, now you got Jalen Ramsey kind of showing his immaturity as a quarterback in the playoffs, and it showed, So
Jalen Hurts.
They played good defensively. They were solid, but
Jalen Hurts.
Right, Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry about that. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Jalen Ramsey definitely in the show.
Oh, for sure. His name's going to come up again.
Oh, yeah. A couple times. But now we go to the 49ers and the Cowboys. And here's your first of the 2 musical numbers. Go away, Dallas Cowboys. Go away, Dallas Cowboys. Go away, Dallas Cowboys. You're not America's team. Nobody likes you.
Oh, that's a remix. Oh, man. That's hot.
Yes. Hey, that's your first of 2 musical numbers. Tampa Bay, you're next.
Oh, goodness. Well, if anyone was tuned in, they aren't any longer. So why don't we move on to the next game, the San Francisco versus Dallas game? Let's talk a little bit about it, Josh, because you obviously have some strong feelings about Dallas. So you weren't I take it you weren't surprised to see them choke under pressure when it came down to it.
No, not when they have Mike McCarthy as their head coach.
I was really high on Dak. I really was excited about his comeback year that he had this year. And I bought into the Cowboys juju that happens every single year. And I'm thinking, okay, this is finally the year that they got the guy that's going to get them over the hump. And it just didn't happen, and, some bonehead plays down the stretch by Dak too, not knowing, who's placing the ball at the line of scrimmage. Like there's just like, the Dallas Cowboys did what the Dallas Cowboys do once they make the postseason, and that's choke.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I threw my money away by even putting $10 down on that team. It was just silly of me. But yeah, I thought they were going to cover. The spread was at 4 points, and I thought they were going to cover. I thought they were going to win that game. But no, San Francisco looked good. They did what they needed to do to win. I'm just not very high on Jimmy Garoppolo. I know some people are. I don't know. He doesn't do it for me. I just can't see him leading this team past an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady or anybody like that. He's just not ready to compete at that level, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But here's my thing with the Cowboys. I never bought into them, to be honest with you, because much like I said about Philadelphia, they play in the NFC least. So you can't really put too much stock into that. Yeah, the Cowboys went 6-0 against the division, but again, it's the NFC East or NFC least. Big freaking whoop. I don't care, because you know what their record was against the rest of the teams they played on their schedule? 6-9.
True, that's true. But again, Cowboys had probably one of the top defensive units in football. Despite the bonehead play at the end of the game, they still was in it. They still could have won it. They kind of blew it. But San Francisco is, man, they play like an Eastern team. Even though they're from the West Coast, they play so physical. They can outrun teams. They won't. If you want to play small football, we can. If you want to throw it down the field, we'll try. But depending on Garoppolo, if he is accurate that day or not. But let's not lose sight that he's been to the Super Bowl before. They are battle tested. They're in arguably one of the toughest defenses. One of the toughest conferences in football. So they are prepared for any type of terrain. Anywhere you put them at, they are them. They run, they're physical, and they usually are outman the other team that they're going against.
Yeah, the only exception I would say to that rule is just Garoppolo in cold weather. He just does not play well in cold weather. So that's the one thing that concerns me moving forward is that game's going to be in Green Bay. That's going to be a tough place to play for him in January. So we'll see if he's good enough to get that team over the hump. But like you said, they do a lot of good things, and they've competed at a high level in a very tough division. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're going to compete, but I don't anticipate this team making the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So moving on to the last game of the day, Steelers and Chiefs. That was just a showcase of offense by Kansas City. Yeah, Pittsburgh had a 7-0 lead early, but then Pittsburgh showed what they were all season. Dink and dunk and can't really generate anything on offense. Nah.
Can't get the ball moving on the ground. Najee Harris only had 29 yards on 12 carries. Yeah, the other thing about this game too, Josh, it feels a little bit like that Tampa Bay game. I don't feel like we learned anything about Patrick Mahomes or the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. I think it went pretty much how we thought it would go, and I don't know. I would also give them, about a B, maybe a B plus, a little bit better of a grade than I would have gave Tampa. But that's it. We didn't. Did you think that we learned anything from this game, Josh?
No.
Yeah, it was just kind of one of those games. It went how everybody said it would go. So
yeah,
not much to talk about there.
Yep, Pittsburgh was just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Yeah,
and Mahomes has had some trouble turning the ball over throughout the year. He did have the one interception, but a 5-to-1 touchdown to INT ratio is great for Mahomes. So hopefully he's cleaning up some of those turnovers and things that plagued him a little bit throughout the year. But yeah, 30 for 39, 404 yards, 5 tuds, and 1 interception. So Mahomes had a great day. Travis Kelce had a great day, 100-yard receiving and a touchdown. So yeah, all the players who usually play well for the Chiefs played well, and they did what the Chiefs do. So,
what I liked about the Chiefs offensively though, they seem to have developed a little bit of a running game actually. Because
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, because early on in the season, when teams went to that too high safety look that prevented them from doing the big plays like we were accustomed to seeing from them, they were having trouble not just passing the ball, but it's like they refused to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And then offensively, they made changes later in the season. We did see that from them. And they seem to have developed a running game. And
yeah,
with Patrick Mahomes, you don't want to give him a running game because that just opens up the playbook for more play action passes. That's going to bring the linebackers and safeties down into the box, and he'll just be like, oh, McCole Hardman, or wide open. Travis Kelce, wide open. Oh, Tyreek Hill, is that you? Bang!
Yeah, it was nice to see someone other than Edwards-Helaire do it in the backfield for Kansas City. McKinnon averaged 5.1 yards a rush. He had a good game. Mahomes averaged 9.7 yards per rush when he scrambled. He had a couple of decent runs. He had a long of 23 yards. But yeah, beyond that, I don't think we learned too much about Kansas City from this game.
Just to piggyback off what Josh was saying, the reason why the Chiefs have got more accustomed to running the ball is because teams caught on to the jig earlier this season. Well, actually, going back to the Super Bowl, where they would have 2 defenders deep, all the way deep, to protect them from having Tyreek Hill or anyone run past them. Mm-hmm. And then if you notice, there was an adjustment period where the Chiefs had to adapt to that because they couldn't throw down the field like they used to. So they kept doing a lot of intermediate passes, and that's where the birth of their run game materialized from. But teams took away that deep threat. So if you want to beat us, you got to dink and dunk us, which Mahomes has no problem at all with being able to do it. So yeah, that's where that run and pound is starting to come from.
I agree, Jason. I think this running game was born out of necessity for them. It was teams were starting to figure a way out, to play against them, and they knew that until they got a running game going, they were going to struggle. So yeah, it's good to see that it's coming together for them now. It's the right time, when you you need your running game now more than ever. So we'll touch on the Cardinals Rams real quick, and then we got to get switched over to the NBA. Rams win that game 34-11. Let's see. Kyler Murray struggled, only 137 yards and 2 INTs. On the opposite end of the ball, Stafford 13 for only 17 throws, 202 yards and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, Rams won this game easy. Looked like the better team throughout. Odell Beckham had the first score of the game. He looked good again. Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts about this one?
Hey, I see who wasn't the problem when I was here in Cleveland. He feels so more comfortable. It looked like he's, you could tell that he wasn't giving it his all here, and we all knew that. But it just seemed like now he's more in I know my role. I'm not asked to be the leader. I'm not asked to be the best talent here. I'm probably fourth on the totem pole there. So it's some of the things that he will still run the wrong routes. That comes across a lot. He did have some drops, but he's then had 5 touchdowns in the last 6 games, I believe. Stafford loves throwing to him, and he gets all the extra attention because Cooper Kupp is going to be double teamed. So he's starting to flourish into this role, and I tip my hat to him, but he's still got a lot of football left to play.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, if they only need Stafford to throw the ball 17 times to get a win, that's great,
Yeah.
So what were you going to say, Josh?
I think this game actually said more about the Cardinals than it did the Rams.
There's some deficiencies there that were glaring in this game.
Yeah. I let me say it like this. I don't want to see anybody get fired from their job. So I'm not necessarily calling for this. But I think it might be time to start looking at Cliff Kingsbury's position,
Really?
if you will.
Because
think about this. Since he's been the head coach, the Cardinals have kind of developed this reputation of doing this, where they started off the season really, really strong. And in this case, they started off the season undefeated. And there were a lot of us buying into them. Like on the football show for So What's the Catch, I picked Kyler Murray to win MVP. And for a large part of the season, it looked like I was going to be spot on, right on the money. And then, true to their form, since Kingsbury's been their head coach, it's like they just fall off a cliff or something. I wish I knew why this happened, but I have no idea.
I think, to me, it raised more questions about Kyler Murray. We saw how many balls get tipped down at the line of scrimmage. His height definitely came into play in this game. It was a lot of tip balls. His QBR was 7.6, which is god awful. Traditional quarterback ranking of 40.9 for those who are more familiar with the traditional rankings. So 40.9, also awful. So in any metric you look at his game, it was really, really poor. And then also he only rushed the ball for 6 yards, and that's supposed to be the one part about his game that is kind of like the X factor. But yeah, we did not see that from him this game. He could not get it going in the air, could not get it going with his legs on the ground. He was sacked twice. But yeah, I just think they were overmatched. I thought LA looked good. I thought they played right to their game plan, and I expect them to be competitive. They looked really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I see the same thing. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, sure. But this is why they call it the playoffs.
Right.
In the regular season, we throw that out the window. We start brand new, and this is basically the season.
Well, later in the show, we're going to make our picks for the next round of the playoffs, but we do want to get into the NBA. Josh, I know you had some stuff prepared for today, some Cavs stuff and some NBA stuff, so I'm going to turn it over to you. Get us back into basketball mode.
So the Cavaliers had a huge win on Monday on MLK Day against the Kevin Durant-less Brooklyn Nets, 114-107. And this was big for a few reasons. Number one, it was 2/3 of the Nets' big three. So that's still a big, impressive win, even without Durant. Number two, we had just come off a grueling 6-game road trip. Granted, we went 5-1 on it, but still, in the past week, we had to play 4 games in 7 nights. And a lot of those games came right down to the wire, so that's for sure going to take a lot of energy out of you. And number three, along with the Nets losing to the Cavs, the 76ers then lost to the Wizards later in the night. And after that, the Atlanta Hawks were able to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. You put that all into a big mixing bowl, and what comes out? The Cleveland Cavaliers are in 4th place in the Eastern Conference.
And
now,
only a point and a half out of only a game and a half out of first place too.
And guess who we play tonight? The division leaders, the Chicago Bulls. And they did not have a good week last week. They got thumped by the Brooklyn Nets. And then a couple nights later, they got wrecked by the Golden State Warriors.
They're on a four-game losing streak.
Yes. So, Bryan, you and I, along with our So What's the Catch counterpart, James, talked about this off mic in a texting string. When is it time to start talking about, like, playoff contenders? Obviously, I'm not going to say the Cavaliers are finals or championship contenders. Yes, I'm a crazy Cavaliers fan. I know. You can tell by my background. But I'm not ready to say we're title contenders. Not yet. But I feel like mid-January is about the time when teams start to show who they are. Like, for example, I'm going to go to the extreme end. You've got the Orlando Magic. They only have like 8 wins or something. So we know who they are. They're not a good team, whatnot. You go to the other end of the spectrum. You got the Golden State Warriors and the Phoenix Suns, who I don't even know if either team has double-digit losses yet. I'd have to look at the standings. But essentially,
Golden State has 12, but Phoenix only has 9.
Okay. But my overall point still is we know who the Warriors are. We know who the Suns are. I think mid-January is when teams start to round into form, and that's when you start to see who the playoff / title contenders are and who the average to draft lottery teams are. So I would say the Cavaliers are starting to show us who they really are this season. Again, I'm not saying they're going to be hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of the season, which, for those of you who don't know, that's the name of the trophy you win if you win the NBA Finals. I'm not ready to say that. We definitely are a couple pieces away from that, like a Karis LeVert or a Buddy Hield, for example. But I think we are showing that we're not just going to be a play-in tournament team this season. I think we're showing that we can be a playoff team.
Absolutely. They're starting to pick up steam, a 5-game winning streak. And the more they play with each other, the more repetition that they develop, it's just going to make them better in the long run, man. They're going to have it's so difficult to score on that team. And the first time around, teams are starting to notice that. So, you on schedule, we're going to get the Cavs. That should be an easy slam dunk. But then, as
I see what you did there,
to develop that, hey, they're going to be This team is for real. This team got defense.
All right.
Yeah.
You ready for me to tell you why you're wrong about it being mid-January? I think here's where you're right. We're over halfway through the season. So we definitely know more about teams now than we did pre-Christmas, for example. But here's the thing. We're only a game and a half out of first place, but we're also only 4 games ahead of the 10th place team. The whole Eastern Conference is within 5.5 games, 1 through 10. That's not going to be how it ends at the end of the year. It's not going to be that close. That starts to separate towards the end of the season. You don't see the 10th place team coming in 5.5 games behind the first place team. You see that more like a 17.5 or 18.5 games behind. And that's what starts to happen after the All-Star break is that gap starts to widen. And teams like Boston that are number 10 right now, those are the type of teams that usually creep up. And then teams that are overperforming, like the Cavs, for example, tend to kind of level out the opposite way. So while we are in 4th place now, the only reason I say pump the brakes is we're only 4 games ahead of the 10th place team. This could take a change really quickly, a 6 or 7 game losing streak, and the wheels could be completely off. So that's the only reason, Josh, that in the off mic conversation we were having that I was like, maybe wait until All-Star break or until after before, we're ready to say, okay, this Cavs team is going to make the playoffs and they're going to, be competitive. That's the only reason I said, let's just pump the brakes a little bit. Does that make sense though?
Yeah. Point taken on that one. And I will say this, there are 4 key dates remaining in the season that could potentially decide the Cavaliers' fate. Let me just pull it up super quick. Okay. So you got February 12th, March 16th, and I believe the last one is April 4th. Those are the 4 games against the Philadelphia 76ers. We have not played the 76ers yet this season. Right now, as I look at the standings, as you said, everybody in the Eastern Conference is jumbled together. Right now, the 76ers, they're on the fringe. They're right on that line.
Yep.
They're number 6, which I think they're going to stay there until this whole Ben Simmons thing gets sorted out.
It's not going to get sorted out.
That's a good point, Jay. It might not get sorted out, but yeah, right. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But my overall point is, do I think the Cavs are going to stay ahead of the Bucks ultimately? No. Milwaukee's going to probably jump ahead. Do I think the Cavs are going to stay within 2 games of the Nets? Possibly, because possibly. Kevin Durant is out 4 to 6 weeks with this injury that he's got. And you have everything with Kyrie Irving where, he said post-game after the Cavs game, he's like, no, I'm not changing my stance on getting the vaccine. So that means he's not going to be able to play in Brooklyn's home game. So that could potentially hurt them. But still, here's why I say the games against Philadelphia are what could decide it. I think the Cavs and 76ers are going to be right there, like this in the standings. So maybe the head-to-head could come into come into the equation. There we go. And be a huge factor in who gets seeded where.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got what you're saying there. Yeah, I think you make some real good points for sure. But yeah. I just think that there's such a log jam right now that to me this has to break up. Unless this ends up being the most competitive season the Eastern Conference has ever seen, which is what it is right now. It's gonna break up. The gap's gonna widen between 1 and 10. But I agree with you. I liked that comparison to Philly. I think that's a crucial series. It's interesting that we haven't played them yet. We've got 4 games against them. Imagine if we win all 4 of those games. That's going to make a big difference in the standings at the end of the season, and that might be me to us. we got to start thinking about home court advantage almost if we're in this type of position towards the end of the season, and that's something that the Cavaliers could potentially get in the first round if they continue to play at the level that they're playing now.
Yeah, and their schedule to close out January is not all that difficult. I mean, I'll pull it up right now. You got Oklahoma, you got Chicago tonight. Then on Saturday, you've got Oklahoma City. Then on Monday, you've got New York. Wednesday, you got Milwaukee. OKC, New York, and Milwaukee are all at home. Then on Sunday, the 30th, you've got Detroit in Detroit. And then on Monday, the 31st, you got New Orleans. That doesn't seem like all that intimidating of a schedule to me. And then to open February, you're at Houston, at Charlotte. That's a good stretch for the Cavs.
It is. One thing we got to also factor into this is that the Cavs are young, right? Youthful. And veterans tend to, I wouldn't say take games off, but they load manage a lot. And when you have a young team that's just got so much energy, so much prowess, I could see this remaining consistent throughout the season and continuing because of their youthfulness. And I don't see it, them kind of hitting the rail and just falling off the cliff. I could see this persistent throughout the entire season. Whereas the older teams, the veteran teams, the Nets, the 76ers, the Bucks, they may kind of coast it and get there. But when you got something to fight for, you want respect in the league, you're an emerging team, you got the youthfulness, and you're good. It shows you got the talent, and they believe. I could see that being consistent throughout the season, and I could see us getting anywhere from a 6 to a 4 seed.
And here's my other thing, which is you kind of touched on this, Jay. We're a young team, so so we don't really know any better. Like Darius Garland wasn't part of all the losing seasons we've had. Isaac Okoro wasn't part of all the losing seasons we've had here in Cleveland. Jared Allen wasn't. Certainly Evan Mobley wasn't. So when you have a team that doesn't know any better and you're doing this, it will ignite them, if you will.
I was saying they're young, so they don't know any better. They don't know how it feels to lose, and all of those cliches. But it is true. Really, all they know is I'm coming to a team that's accustomed to losing unless they have LeBron, and not going to win. So.
Yeah, it's been really fun to cover this team and talk about it. I'm excited to come back next week and see where we're at a week from now. It's just been really fun to see this team week to week. But we got to switch back to football because we have to preview the divisional round. There are 4 divisional round matchups, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. We're going to give our picks here. We're going to break down each of those games real quick, and then we're going to be signing off here at 1:30. So we got about 12 minutes, fellas. Why don't we start, and let's just go in order like we did last time. To start the day, Saturday, we have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Titans at 4:30. Tennessee is a 3.5-point favorite in that game. I like the Titans to win this one. I think it's going to be close, but I like the Titans to win this one at home. What say you guys?
I think you already know which direction I'm going because I have the Bengals winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
So I'm, of course, picking Cincinnati. And my big reason for that is, Tennessee has Julio Jones. Yes, they have A.J. Brown. And yes, they could be getting Derrick Henry back. So that could make all the difference in the world. I will say that. But I don't know if Tennessee has the firepower to keep up with the Cincinnati offense. Let's say the Bengals get out to an early 14. Hypothetically, let's say the Bengals get out to an early 14-0 lead. I don't know if Tennessee has it within them offensively to come back.
No, I see my pick. I think the Titans. I think they will they will pull this game off. To answer your question, though, they do have some firepower in the offense. They got AJ Brown, one of the top wide receivers in football. And Julio Jones, whenever he gets on the field, he's a viable option. But they do a lot of running, but they do a lot of running with a guy that was injured throughout the season, and they still was able to materialize off that. But now he will be available. And I said this earlier in the show. The Bengals can't stop the run. So now that you got Derrick Henry, you're at home, you got the 12th man on your side, and you're the number one seed. You're 12-5. So it's not like they just came out of nowhere. They've been beating up on teams, whether it was slow and methodical. They weren't blowing teams out, but they're out coaching. They have a better coach with Vrabel. They got a tough defense, not really a top tier, but they're solid. But they got a great running game. They got the wide receiver threats. Tannehill, he can RPO it if need be, but I see that being the issue for the Bengals, and I don't see how they're going to stop the run.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jay. I think the running game does it, and I think the good thing about them getting the running game going is that's going to drain the clock. It's going to keep the ball out of Joey Burrow's hands. And if they can't get their running game going, they're going to need Burrow to pass a lot. They're going to need him to be the one that wins that game for them. So yeah, we're going to learn a lot about Joey Burrow in this game and also about Tannehill. He's the one piece of this that kind of concerns me. I don't know if he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. If Derrick Henry struggles or say he gets hurt on the first or second, third play of the game and goes down, I don't know if Tannehill's going to have what it takes to overcome that. So there's definitely some red flags in this game for me, but I still like the Tennessee Titans to win this one at home.
So quick thing I want to touch on Joe Burrow. People are going to say, yeah, Joe Burrow hasn't played a big playoff game on the road in the NFL. Okay, fine. But guess what? Even though playing at Alabama in the regular season isn't the same, he's still been in that type of hostile territory before. So I don't think playing on the road in Tennessee is really going to rattle him or bother him. I think he'll be fine with it.
Joe's going to be Joe. Joe Cool is going to be cool wherever he plays on the face of the earth. Is his offensive line going to be that way? Because if they are rattled, if they can't protect him, if they can't open up the holes and the gaps for Joe Mixon, that's where you're going to start to see the discrepancies start to take place. Joe's going to do what he can do, but he don't do so much.
Right.
I'll give you that one.
We got to move on to the next game. We still got 3 games left to pick, and we only got about 7 minutes left. So we got the Niners at the Green Bay Packers. That game's at 8 o'clock. Right now, the Packers are favorites. They are, 6-point favorites. I like San Fran to cover this game, but I like Green Bay to win.
I agree. San Francisco's going to cover. Green Bay's going to win, though. We saw this matchup on Sunday Night Football, and I get it. We can't take too much stock from who won and who lost in the regular season because regular season's over here, playoffs are over here. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think you can take something from the regular season meeting in that San Francisco, Green Bay won, but San Francisco kept it close all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm.
True.
And if I remember correctly, Aaron Rodgers has not defeated the 49ers in the playoffs. I believe he is 0-3.
Yeah, that's correct. The one thing about that game, it was a close game. They only lost by 2, but it was in San Fran. It was earlier in the year, so that's a warm weather game. I'm telling you guys, look at Garoppolo's numbers when he plays in the cold. They are not good. So he's going to have to do something he hasn't done yet in his career. He's going to have to go into a hostile environment in Green Bay and play like a star player. So he's got a lot to prove. He's got a chance to do it here, man.
This is why I'm going to say that I think the 49ers will defeat the Green Bay Packers, number 1 seed. There's a couple of reasons, actually. Yes, the Packers don't really traditionally with Aaron Rodgers do good in the playoffs, and we all kind of know that. But the more physical dominant team is the 49ers. The 49ers are equipped to play on the road in cold conditions, even though they're from the West Coast. That really doesn't matter to this team. This team will run, and run some more. I don't see the Packers being able to stop Deebo Samuels. I don't see them being able to stop Elijah Mitchell. And Shanahan knows this. Shanahan knows it's a difference between playing us in the regular season when it's warm versus playing us in the cold, but you have to stop the run. Packers cannot stop the run. When the Browns played the Packers, we were averaging, a good 8-9 a clip running the ball on them. And now you're talking about a team that will have no problem at all running the ball a good 35, 40 times easily. And all they need for Garoppolo to do is just not turn the ball over, which that's a tall task. I get that. But that play action is going to be wide open. And that's when you start to see the Packers' deficiency on defense. Because if they can't stop them, all you need is just a couple of turnovers for the 49ers on defense. And if Bosa's healthy, if Fred Warner plays, you can see those turnovers being easily in reach.
All right. Well, we got to move on. We got Rams and Buccaneers and Bills and Chiefs to go still, and we got 4 minutes left. So we got 2 minutes per. So let's make this quick. In 2 minutes, Rams versus Buccaneers. This is a good matchup. I've got Tom Brady edging out Matt Stafford and the Rams in this game in a close one. How about you guys?
Go away, Tampa Bay. Go away, Tampa Bay. Go away, Buccaneers. You will not win this game. Go Rams.
Okay, so we got your pick, Josh. Jay, what about you? Who you got in this one?
Despite the theatrics of going with Josh, I got the Rams. Tampa Bay is not the same. They're missing a lot of key parts. So Rams.
All right. So you guys both like the Rams in that matchup. We'll see. Tampa Bay's missing some key players. They don't got Leonard Fournette. They don't got Chris Godwin. So they're missing some key pieces.
That's what's going to be the difference.
You guys might be right, but until it happens, I'm going with my guy Tom Brady. He just time and time again, we go into games saying that this is why he won't do it, and he does it. So until he doesn't do it, I'm riding with my guy. All right, well, I guess we'll just move right into Bills versus Chiefs then. This is a big one. This one might be a little more interesting for us here. Chiefs versus Bills. I like the Bills in this game. I picked the Bills to be the Super Bowl contender on So What's the Catch early in the season. I'm going to stick with my pick. I think the Bills are going to come out of the AFC.
Yes.
So I got the Bills in this game over the Chiefs. I think that Josh Allen gets it done. How about you?
I got Bengals Chiefs in the AFC Championship game next week, so I'm going Kansas City.
I'm going with the Bills. I think the Bills got the best player on the field, which is Josh Allen. And now I don't see that stopping, and they have a point to prove to the Chiefs from last year. So it's like rematch. It's the rematch weekend, honestly.
It's if you're going by that logic, it's round 3 between the Bills and the Chiefs, because not only did they play in the AFC Championship game last year, they also played each other on Sunday Night Football this year in Kansas City, and Buffalo whooped Kansas City's. Well, we're on internet radio, so whooped Kansas City's ass.
Kansas City whipped them in the county, so they got to get payback.
All right, well, there you have it. We've all made our picks. We'll be back next week. We'll go over our picks, see who was right, see who was wrong, and then we'll continue riding along this playoff journey right here with the NFL. Guys, this is a really fun show. I love being on here, as always, with you guys. If you're watching, make sure you like and subscribe. And come check us out on So What's the Catch. We'll be doing that on the So What's the Catch YouTube. So switch over to us, like and follow that one too. Jay, Josh, you guys got any last words before we break?
No, I got nothing.
It's always
Right. Go Browns, as always. Go Cavs, go Guardians, forever.
Hey, don't forget the Monsters and don't forget the Chars.
Them too. If you're from Cleveland and you play sports, you go. All right.
Good
All right,
job.
it's been fun, guys. I will see you guys next week. Josh, I'll see you in a little bit. Jason, peace out. Good to see you guys.
See ya.
All right.